All right, I've hit the button. It swears we are live. So, with that, welcome to another episode of the Rocket MSP Podcast. I'm Steve Taylor. I'm your host. Today, I'm joined by Eric and Howard, both from TimeZest. Guys, we're all wearing green. This
Absolutely.
is great.
It's a complete coincidence. It's just a random day, right? We didn't know.
Coincidence, you say?
TimeZesters wear green every day, or something that has something to do with a lemon. So maybe it just happened to fall on St. Patrick's Day. But yes, we're dressed for the occasion.
That is excellent. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day to you, gentlemen. I feel like, you know, if we were leaning more toward the Joe Rogan style podcast, we'd be drinking right now.
the content would be
not
completely different, or we try to get through this content and make it about 20 minutes and end up going on to something else. So yeah.
Well, I have that problem when I'm sober. So, sure. I mean, who knows what it would happen if I was drunk. Actually, I had a meeting last year while inebriated, and it was a good time. All right. Well,
kudos for admitting to it. You know,
hey, you know, I don't need to be drunk to make mistakes. Okay,
absolutely,
I do them just fine while sober. But sure. when I'm drunk, it's more entertaining for everyone else.
Absolutely.
So talk to me, guys. Eric, like I said, you guys are from TimeZest. Eric, can you give me a little bit of your background?
Sure, and this is part of the fun part is both Howard and I are longtime employees of ConnectWise, right? Which just means, and that also includes our founders as well, which, you know, I'll walk through this briefly, but we all have a lot of depth of experience in the space, right? So we work with, I started at ConnectWise as the very fourth salesperson when they were in a very small office up in North Tampa. In 2007 and left in late 2016, early 17. So almost a 10-year run, right? Howard was there almost as long as I was. And then if you look at our founders, Jerway Todd on the right, was at ConnectWise for 12 years and left as a director of corporate strategy doing some M&A stuff for him. So it helps. You know, when you're in the space, domain expertise always helps. But when we're working with TimeZest and MSPs and talking about scheduling, there's some very common problems or things that we see. And we get asked a lot, you know, what have you seen other MSPs do historically? How do they solve for this? What's a common best practice, right? So that's very helpful when you're working through these sorts of things.
Awesome. So that's a really cool background. How about you, Howard? You said you both worked at ConnectWise together.
Yes.
Yes.
Would you like to expand on that?
You can't tear us apart. We're like the odd couple.
We actually, yes, absolutely. We have secrets. We work together, working with MSPs, and then we actually towards the end of Eric's run with ConnectWise, we actually started working with the low voltage industry, audiovisual and physical security companies that were, you know, looking to get into more recurring revenues like the MSPs have gotten into. I'm leading the biz dev side of TimeZest, and basically what my goal is to get in front of as many MSPs out there and let them know about a tool like this, because most everybody's dealing with some sort of scheduling issue. A lot of it's internal, but a lot of it's also clients just don't respond. So that's what we work on.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a great segue into scheduling. So that's kind of what TimeZest does is TimeZest, it's just scheduling. I say that with air quotes because I mean, it's such a simple concept, but it can be a big time suck depending on, you know, how many meetings you have and how many people are in the meeting and all the back and forth and everything else. So give me just like a 10,000 foot overview of TimeZest and why.
Sure. Every MSP that hears this or see this has the problem. I'm just going to, speaking of air quotes, I'll just call it that, right? The issue with scheduling where end users are coming inbound there and they're on tickets, and you get to that point where you have to schedule with an end user in order to get to a resolution, right? And then all the great tech kind of goes out the window, and everybody does it a little bit differently. People say, I'll call first, right? But if you call first, 95% of the time, you're not going to catch that end user because they didn't know you were calling. So you leave a voicemail, then you send them an email off the ticket. Hey, we're looking to schedule, right? What times are good for you? Then they send you a list of times and you look at it and say, no, those aren't good for when we have availability to work on this. Let me suggest some times. And then they come back and say, no, none of those times are good for me. So you end up playing what we often refer to as scheduling ping pong, right?
Sure.
And one of the key questions we ask MSPs and service managers and even technicians is, when you have to do this, how long does it take? And we get answers all the time that are like, I've spent 2 hours trying to schedule. I've spent 2 days trying to schedule. Here's our break gauge. Look at all the tickets that are in a status of waiting on customer response, except that's just our catch-all status for it. They're really not, because we've already responded to the customer, but they responded to the technician, but the technician hasn't seen it yet because they're working other tickets and it's sitting in their queue. So what we said as a company, and Jameson West, our chairman of the board, one of our other founders, is very good at this. He developed TimeZest and also Smileback, and ConnectWise uses both of those tools internally. So a lot of people find us when they're working tickets through ConnectWise, and they get sent a scheduling link, and they're like, wow, this is just like Calendly, right? If I can select a time and have that be threaded back through the ticket, nobody has to wait on each other. The ticket gets updated. Everybody knows where they need to be, and you can schedule almost instantaneously. So, our job as a company is just to cut out the ping pong.
Okay. And I like that, but I got to say, but Calendly, like, I mean, I've solved that problem already. I've got Calendly. So why would I need you instead of Calendly?
It's a good reference point because most people have seen it. And even if they don't use it, they've been sent a link once or twice, right? And they're like, whoa, this is easy, right? The problem is, if you're an MSP and you're using ConnectWise or Autotask, Calendly, Bookings, Find Time, none of these scheduling tools, they're great. The technology is great, but it doesn't integrate into ConnectWise. So you may be able to schedule, but you're manually adding a resource to the ticket. You're manually changing the status. You're manually putting the notes in, everything. There's no integration via the API or any other method. And so we took a lot of the same principles around the way that something like TimeZest would work, and did the work to write the integration into ConnectWise and Autotask to make it seamless.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to beat you up on this a little bit more,
Sure.
because I feel like, that's what the MSP prospects are doing, right?
Sure.
So,
understood.
I can sign up for a free Calendly account, and that gives me the ability to have, I believe it's just one, but I can have one like scheduling link. And then I can set that up to where it's my scheduling link. And then my coworker Jim, he can set up his own free Calendly account with his one scheduling link. And we can just send this to our customers. And I'm a Mac user, so I can even add like the auto completes. So I can just type in at Cal, and it'll automatically put in my Calendly link for me. So that way, all I had to do was, in the ticket notes as I'm typing my reply, hey, it seems like I need to get connected to your computer. Let's schedule time for us to do that at Cal. Click this link and pick a time that works. Like, I don't see the problem with doing that, because then it adds it to my calendar, which has been integrated. And then if you guys are doing it right, by you guys, I mean the MSPs, if you're doing it right, your calendar is integrated into ConnectWise. So sure, it's not going to attach that calendar item to the ticket as a scheduled event or whatever the systems call it. But I mean, does it need to? And maybe that's a question that only depends on the size of the MSP or the level of scale that this MSP has,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So that is my counter to, but ours integrates with ConnectWise or our
No,
help desk.
and it's good and it's fair, and we get this a lot. Probably half the customers that I've worked with since I've been here are using some sort of scheduling tool. There's other ones out there other than just Calendly, and so we get in a lot of cases where someone has tried that and it's fallen down. The first thing you mentioned is the free Calendly license limiting you to one appointment type. In TimeZest, and we're similar, we have a free license as well, but most people need separate appointment types for on-site visits, phone calls, quarterly business reviews that include Teams or Zoom. Lots of MSPs try to schedule quarterly business reviews manually. And then, by the time they get everybody on the ticket and everybody scheduled, the quarter's half over and the data isn't as relevant, right? So we do offer the ability to automate the scheduling of those. And then the other thing is, if you're a busy service manager, Calendly's not going to update the status on the ticket at all, despite the fact that we send reminders until we threaten to auto close the ticket. And then they say, well, wait a minute, we're still having the issue, which is, that's by design in ConnectWise or Autotask. Can TimeZest, when it does something or when it performs an event, move through those statuses all the way to, yes, they scheduled, they went ahead and canceled, or they never responded, change status in ConnectWise so that workflow can take over and auto close that ticket, right? They just needed to match with the way that they typically work in their PSA.
Love that my camera just went out. Oh, there it is. It's back. All right. So I like what I hear. Let's talk a little bit about the company itself then. So while this seems like a simple enough product, and you could have potentially a really small team, do you guys have any investors in TimeZest right now?
We are self-funded by these three guys who were our original founders. So Jason is our head of product. And if you end up using TimeZest or you go into a trial, you send an email to help at. The development team actually helps there. So, there's a lot of companies where you don't get to meet with the resources who actually wrote the code and can tell you how the code works. A lot of MSPs sort of enjoy that. Jameson obviously has a lot of expertise and a long history in the MSP space. Half the people I talk to that see his picture are like, yes, I know him. Yes, I've worked with him. Yes, I've met him. And then Jerway with his long history of ConnectWise. So we don't have investors at this point. We haven't seen the need. We've been growing as a company by leaps and bounds while being self-funded, which is great. It just means, the argument for that is you don't have people, it could change, but we don't have people sitting on our board making decisions. We're just trying to do the best we can to understand deeply the processes that MSPs go through around scheduling and be a help there, right? That's the mission of the company.
Love it. Did we lose him? Oh, there he's back.
He just freezes up sometimes. It's just it's a tick he has.
Oh,
I can't see myself, but I'll assume it's going well.
So you said that when we email help at that we are interacting with the developers. Are those developers employees, 1099 contractors?
Yes. Yes.
So
how many employees do we have currently? I think counting Dev, Howard, probably about 12 or 15.
12, yeah.
Everybody's an employee of TimeZest. No one is a contractor.
And where are they located? Like, are they all in the U.S.? Do you have any in like Zimbabwe or
If we
China?
if we did, that would be great. Again, we all come from very diverse backgrounds, and a lot of us, the about page is on the website. So if you go and look at the faces here, you might find someone that you know. But before COVID, remote working wasn't as popular, and then it became popular by necessity, right? So what our attitude is as far as bringing new people on board is, the best person for the job, regardless of any geographic location, right? It shouldn't be dependent on what town you live in or whether or not, TimeZest has a building. So as an example, Jason, our head of product, lives in Berlin. Jameson's in Las Vegas. Jerway's here with me in Tampa. Howard's in Georgia. Lucas is another one of our developers. We have two resources that handle onboarding and customer success. Johanna's based in Idaho. Becky's based in Illinois. So, we're everywhere. But if you go through this list, again, every one of us has some deep connection to the space.
Should I put your screen up? I didn't actually confirm that with you.
Yeah,
because you're talking about the list. I wasn't sure if I should be sharing your screen yet.
Sure, I'm sharing out. So,
all right,
that's fine.
So that'll make it much easier for everyone to understand. So that's really cool. Everyone's staff. We don't have to worry about that type of stuff.
Sure.
So you mentioned that this is an integration with like ConnectWise or Autotask.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for a second. I know that with tools like Calendly and etc. I'm just going to keep saying Calendly because that's what I use, right?
That's fine.
But we know I mean all of them. With these tools, they all integrate to my calendar. But it sounds like TimeZest is integrating to my PSA, which that should be integrated to the calendar.
Perfect. You said it perfectly.
Okay.
And this applies to, again, both Autotask and ConnectWise. The reasoning for that is we need a single source of truth. So when I send the button to a customer that says click this to pick a time, which you'll see in a second, right? Whoever the tech is, it has to go on the back end and do a real-time check in the PSA to say this is what he has available, right? Because you're typically sending multiple scheduling requests for multiple resources on multiple tickets, and it's at the second that the button is clicked for it to make a decision around availability, right? And so the easiest way to do that, to give it its single source of truth, is just say we're going to integrate with the ConnectWise managed calendar or the dispatch calendar in Autotask. Everybody typically has their Outlook, synced to ConnectWise. So you should have matching calendars on both fronts there. But TimeZest has to have a place to look because it's making that decision in a split second.
And having the integration be with the PSA probably just makes it easier for you because now you're only working on like one API integration instead of, okay, is it Google G Suite? Is it Microsoft 365? Or, what calendar am I integrating to? And, like, is this
sure?
Is this Yahoo using Yahoo? Like,
sure. And it's a clean path to getting this done in the easiest way. Could it change at a later point? Sure. If you've been in the MSP space as long as I know you have, you're going to run across people where I'm an owner of a company and I do put a lot of things in Outlook, or I like to run sales, not necessarily in my PSA. There's 3 or 4 common use cases that come up for things like that. But again, we're assuming we have to have that place to look again. So the best place to do it is to look into the PSA. Obviously we have the integration there through the APIs, and then if your calendar is syncing through Outlook, then you should be good.
Perfect. So data, I feel like you probably aren't storing any of our data. If anything, it would just simply be what calendar information would be in ConnectWise itself.
Yes, the only information that we can see on our side is basically names and emails that are involved in a scheduling request. So, TimeZest can't see into your records or tickets or customer information other than basically their email, which is all we need to schedule. Unlike a lot of tools, we're only touching a very specific thing. So for security purposes, there isn't a lot of data that we need to see or collect.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because there are plenty of integrations out there for whatever. Like, we don't, the PSA is irrelevant, but there are plenty of integrations out there where, like, you can tell that the people that made the integration have absolutely no idea what permissions they need to make things work. So they'll just say things like, yeah, just give us, check all the boxes. Give us basically full admin rights into your ConnectWise. And I mean, that is a big red flag, which tells me that, like, even though they say all they need is this or that, they have access. They have keys to the kingdom. So how do you guys handle permissions?
It's funny that you mention that, because we get that same comment from a lot of the MSPs that we work with. And I'm not sure, if it's just laziness on the development side. Of course, it's easier to make everything an admin, and you're never going to have conflicts with permissions, but it's also not secure, right? So I'm not exactly sure where the motivation to do it that way would ultimately come from. I can say that with TimeZest, like anything that's going to tie into your ConnectWise or your auto task, it's basically the same two steps. You're going to create a security role, and you're going to create an API user. What's nice, to your point, is this is the steps, and this is on our website for setting the permissions in ConnectWise, just using ConnectWise as an example, right? You'll notice right off the bat, all, none, all, none, none. All of these have to match. And then the table set of permissions, when you customize those in the setup tables, these things have to be pushed into the allow column. Everything else has to be pushed into deny. So it's basically the least required permissions so that TimeZest can do what it needs to do, right? Update a service ticket or a project ticket, or schedule a resource on a ticket and update a calendar.
I absolutely love that. And you're right. I mean, you hear it a lot. I hear it a lot, which is why I brought it up. And it's really unfortunate that some of these developers, like you said, it just seems like they're lazy and don't want to figure out what permissions they actually need to make this stuff work. So I really appreciate that you guys aren't.
I don't know if there's some other good reason for doing it that way. I'm not sure. But we do get a lot of compliments from MSPs saying, hey, thanks for thinking of this. Thanks for being mindful of it. We like that. We like the way you do it.
Well, I would ask you what's your unique selling proposition, but it sounds like if we were to try and compare you to Bookings or Calendly or whatever, it's literally that you connect to the PSA. So that way, all of my technicians and just people that have accounts in the PSA can utilize this and schedule things in real time.
Sure. And there's a couple other things that we get asked about, and the way we like to show it is kind of like peeling back an onion, right? You can ask any MSP what their service process is, and there's a client issue. We need to triage it. Do you have a dispatcher? Do you have a coordinator? Lots of MSPs have someone who has that title. Really, their job is only scheduling. They can't even work a ticket. They're not even a tier 1 tech, right? I've worked with several that have 2 or more full-time resources with benefits and everything else, just because if the techs are playing, I'm going to say ping pong a lot, so just be prepared for that. If the techs are playing scheduling ping pong, the tickets aren't moving through their statuses, and things aren't getting closed as fast, and they're not billable while they're sending things back and forth to an end user, right? We have had MSPs go through all of their tickets and find fractional time entries, 0.1 of an hour, 0.2. And all that is you left a voicemail for somebody and put a time entry on the fact that you were on the phone for 30 seconds. Well, add those up over multiple days. And we have had some MSPs insert that into their quarterly reporting for the customers, which is, there's two ways to look at that, right? But it's a good way of illustrating, hey, we've spent this much time between each other just trying to get a hold of each other and not working on issues, right? Good news. We're going to have a new process for scheduling. You'll be able to pick times that works for you. And also, we're not increasing the cost of your platinum contract. We're going to include this in our service offering. And that's when people really start to like it, is when they see the rubber hit the road, right? But everybody understands assigning and scheduling techs and resolving issues and track customer satisfaction, right? That's all basic. When you get into, okay, how do you do it? Number one is, what's the availability of the client, right? Well, how do you figure that out? Well, I sent them an email and asked them what time they wanted to work. And then, they didn't respond. Then they did. We had some availability, but then the previous day we got really busy and we didn't have it. So I had to start suggesting times for them. There's a lot of back and forth there. And of the techs that could work the issue, who's available at the times that the client wants, the only way to do that manually is to look in the dispatch portal in ConnectWise or Autotask, right? I have to have a resource that's got the skill set to solve the issue and is also available. So there's a lot of manual juggling of balls and looking at the radar, right? And then when you get into, which I'll show you, my techs are broken down into triage, tier 1, tier 2, senior technicians that mostly work on products. How do I pick somebody from a tier based on, are they more utilized? Are they less utilized? And TimeZest can actually do that. You can say, I'll pick tier 2, and I have 3 techs that are considered tier 2 techs. Pick one tech out of the 3 because he's got the most white space on his calendar. It's a huge help to be able to do that through automation and software versus, staring at a dispatch portal and trying to figure it out in real time while I have 15 other things going on. I'd rather send the scheduling request to the customer and have the tool do it, right? We've got to notify the customer. We've got to confirm their appointment. And then the last one, I laugh at this because it's super obvious, but we get this a lot. They no-show. The customers no-show. Like, we did all this manual work, finally got them to schedule. We were there and they never showed up, right? And so the easiest way that we found to solve for that is to have a step where we confirm, but we also include a calendar invite. So we try to keep end user thinking to a minimum and really make it easy for them. Pick a time, click yes to get this on your calendar, and then they know where they need to be. We know where we need to be, and it closes the loop, right?
So I like that. I like that a lot. So that was a really nice illustration of what things look like when you're not using TimeZest. I suspect we don't need a PowerPoint to show what it looks like when you are, because it's easy to show us the actual product.
Sure, which I can do. So, I don't like PowerPoint either, but if you go to the marketplace, I mean, we just passed Connect Booster, so we're trying to work our way to the top. But out of all the tools that integrate with ConnectWise, we are the number 3 tool. And you don't get there, organically. Right? It's not like we were sending bottles of tequila and expensive chocolate bars to people. Like, you only get there based on positive reviews, and everybody puts their name on it, right? Here's where I work, here's what I do, and this is how TimeZest has really helped. So if you go through these, you'll find people who mention, we tried to do this with Calendly, we tried to do this with bookings. And, if Calendly ever decides that they want to understand the day-to-day needs of the MSP and they want to do the work to integrate to ConnectWise or Autotask, God bless them, right? But, that's how we started as a company, and we've been able to help a lot of MSPs ever since.
So I see we have a comment from somebody watching. Ian said he's been using it for 1.5 to 2 years now, I believe. So he didn't really say anything other than I've been using it. So I've got to ask Ian, do you like it or do you love it?
Okay. Do you want to send him that message? We'll see what he says.
I mean, he'll hear it eventually. So while we wait on that, I want to talk to you about some deeper dive type stuff.
Sure.
Would you ever need to worry about compliance for the MSPs? Do you have any MSPs right now that are like, will you sign a BAA agreement? Like,
I think we've had a couple in relation to HIPAA, maybe in the medical space, but again, we're as the way that a lot of these security standards are written, and I don't claim to be an expert on various standards, and I've yet to meet anybody who can completely and fully understand HIPAA, but the amount of data that we touch is so limited. Names and emails, that's it. That when you look at the standards and you're thinking about compliance, TimeZest is automatically basically excluded because we're not touching, 9.5 things out of the 10 things that they require. So sometimes we get the question, most of the time we don't.
And have you ever signed the BAA?
I haven't, so I can't speak to that. I've seen a couple cross my desk, but no, I haven't. With all of the customers I've worked with in the past year, I haven't been required to execute one myself. So it's pretty rare.
Okay. And what about just some additional security? Like, MSPs are rightfully nervous about all their stuff getting hacked. So, do you guys have any like 2FA or anything like that?
We just implemented two-factor for everybody, and there is a statement. If you really want to get into the nuts and bolts, I won't show it here, but on our website, on the top page, I can point you to it. Should be down here at the bottom. Security. So it just gives you kind of a spec sheet of how we host it, AWS, how we encrypt, SSD, anti-SQL injection, which is web app stuff, but it's just stuff to read through. Yeah,
that's good. So I like that you have that right in your, I believe that was in the footer of your website. So for those of you that are very security conscious, just go to the TimeZest.com website, go to the footer down at the bottom, click on security, and that should check off most, if not all, your security boxes for you.
Sure.
And then any additional security questions you have, you can ask here in the comments. You can shoot over an email to TimeZest, I'm certain, by or actually no, down on the bottom right of their thing, they've got the have any questions. So you pop that open and you can start a chat with somebody there. Or I'm sure you could just email help@timezest.com and one of the engineers or developers, whatever you want to refer to them as, will answer that question for you as well. So there's a few different options to get some of these more advanced security questions answered. But I think that page will check off most of the boxes.
We like to say there's a chat here too. And we like to say, any one of us can help with 95% of issues. So we all sort of answer the chat. If you've ever implemented a PSA and you still have your hair and your sanity, we know what goes into that, right? TimeZest is designed to be a simple tool to solve a specific problem. So the setup for it usually takes about 20 minutes. And the adoption happens once a technician doesn't have to go back and forth with a client. And once a client sees it and says, I don't have to call and check when the MSP is going to work my issue because I know it's going to be 2:00 tomorrow because I just scheduled. That's the point where, that's the tipping point where a lot of people kind of fall in love with it.
Yep. Steve, to play off of that, most of the add-ons that you'll see, like in now that Autotask has University, ConnectWise University, with all the plugins, you're investing in products that the customer never sees. They don't know that you're using it. The good thing about TimeZest now is that you're a technology company Now you're using technology to schedule. People are wondering, well, why do I go back and forth with my technology company, but my plumber, my doctor, my restaurant, I can just go on and schedule an appointment, right? So that's a really good point for the use of it. The customer sees it, the customer sees the branding, the customer understands it, the customer feels like they have more control. We're seeing from our clients, that our partners, that a lot of their clients are happier now. Another thing we're hearing is that their phones aren't ringing as much. So that's freeing up a lot of time and getting rid of a lot of noise. That back and forth, you only have to touch a ticket once.
I like that. So one thing that I got a private message, and this person said that they love TimeZest. They're trying to get greater adoption among their techs. They want their techs to use it more as the default, as opposed to using it as a last resort. It seems like that would be real easy to have happen. People get set in their ways, especially tech people. It's so weird. Like, you would think that most IT people would be like excited to adopt some like new technology.
Sure.
But you got to realize, like, the owners probably are, because the owners, like, they get pumped and excited when they're looking at ways to make their team more efficient. The team's just like, stop giving me all this new crap. I just want to get my work done and get my paycheck.
Sure.
So I see both sides of that. But he said that it would be neat if there was a way that TimeZest could gamify the system, and like they could get points for using it. And I don't think he's even sure how to use the points or anything like that yet, but I think he's just trying to figure out, like, how on earth can I get better adoption with this?
Right. If you get 30,000 points, you get a free flat screen TV.
Make it like Chuck E. Cheese, man.
Sure. The question I would ask in that case is, why would they feel like that they're not seeing the adoption that they want? Because there's a couple different reasons. Some of it has to do with historically the way that they work. Sometimes there's a good mechanical business reason for doing something in certain ways. We never assume until they say. We've had companies where they'll say, the technicians are very used to having free and open use of their calendar, right? So I pull tickets out of a queue. I have some things that are scheduled for me for a dispatcher. I'm free. I have complete autonomy. And technicians like that. We're not trying to take that away. And I'll show you how we sort of space things out. The intent is not to have somebody scheduled back to back all day. That's just going to make everyone miserable, right? But for the things that need to be scheduled, where if you do it manually, you're going to have to play ping pong. All we're trying to do is eliminate the ping pong. So it's not that much of a change based on the way that you typically do it. Or the number of things that you typically have scheduled on your calendar. And every group of technicians has certain things on a daily basis that have to happen at certain times. We're not trying to lessen that or increase that unless that's what they want. We just want to make the scheduling piece easier. And we had other MSPs. Our Autotask integration just came out of beta. And one of our very early Autotask customers on a trial did 90 scheduling requests in 10 days, to the point where I had to email him and be like, have you figured out a way to automate the scheduling piece? Are you the clicking of the button, right? And his response was, no, we just spend a lot of time scheduling and we really like TimeZest. So in 10 days, which is silly, but in 10 days, we'll see people jump in the deep end of the pool. And then we'll see people that say, we need to work this into our existing process and how we work.
So are you familiar with a tool called MSP IC?
I'm not.
So MSPIC.io is the website for this. And basically, it is a managed service provider integrated chat. That's what it stands for. So it allows MSPs that are using ConnectWise Manage and Slack to improve their day-to-day operations. And one of the things that it does is it will send out a Calendly invite, so that way the technician can schedule that. Who needs to make that initial contact? Because I feel like you guys need to talk, so that way you guys can get MSPIC integrated with TimeZest,
Sure.
in addition to Calendly. You know
Sure.
what I mean? That because that just seems like a no-brainer.
Sure. And I won't say, that it's not in process, or it's not a request we've had before, or it's not something that we've talked about, right? There's going to be a lot of additions and extra integrations to the product over time, right? And to that point, our roadmap.timezest.com is publicly available. So when you look at all of the things you can go here to feature request and search every single one. When you look at everything that's risen to the plan stage and then in process, it's not a huge, massive roadmap, but we do prioritize certain things. We really wanted to get auto task integration out to help people the same way that we've been helping MSPs who use ConnectWise. So that was a priority, right? And we're still doing a lot of work to solve the basic problem of, I spend X number of hours playing ping pong. It's just what got us to that status on the marketplace. But chat will come however we do it, and it's an internal conversation with us and something that we're working on over time.
I am completely guessing here, but I believe MSPIC is operated by Joey Undis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that name. He's kind of a big deal in the Slack and Discord channels for MSPs. He's done a lot for ConnectWise users specifically. And so I remember a while back, it must have been 2-3 years by now, he was working on this like Slack integration for ConnectWise, and he has clearly taken it to like a whole new level at this point, to where it works, it's beautiful, and it basically lets you get like a stream of tickets in Slack, and then you can even interact with those tickets, make updates and everything through Slack without ever having to switch over to that awful clunky ConnectWise Manage application. So I think it's worth I think it's worth having a conversation with Joey and saying, hey, what would it take for you to integrate this with MSP IC? And it sounds like Joey this guy wants it so bad, he already reached out to Joey, and Joey knows to expect an email from you.
Yeah, perfect. Is this the person who's currently using TimeZest?
He's currently using TimeZest, and he loves it. So,
There's
oh my gosh! And now Joey is literally in the chat now.
Small world.
That's how relationships happen. That's great. And that's the point of doing these meetings. And again, it's not like it's never been brought up or never been thought of. It is in process. We're working on it internally, right? When I got over, Steve, the point of ConnectWise being ugly, quote unquote, is when I had to use ConnectWise and Autotask at the same time. Literally, I had to learn Autotask as well as I think I know ConnectWise. And what that exercise teaches you is it's just like muscle memory in your brain, where you know how to go to certain spots, and to have to accomplish the same things in a different tool. It's not that it's ugly or unworkable. It's just you don't know it.
Some things are better in one system. Each system has their pros and their cons, their strengths and their weaknesses.
Sure.
We'll leave it at that. I like to tease either system because I don't use either of them. So I mean, I feel like every MSP has an opinion, and we all know what opinions are like. So yeah. Joey, I think it would be awesome, since you're here, I think it would be super awesome if you could integrate MSPIC with TimeZest, because TimeZest seems like a much cooler scheduling tool for MSPs than Calendly. And did I hear you guys correctly that you have a free version?
We do.
Okay.
Is that bad?
Is that okay? I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not used to wait, free? Like free or
yes, free. Yeah. we're all caught off guard by free. We're just not used to it.
Just very confused by this for
sure.
Free.
And
am I saying it right? For free?
Yes. 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 One of the nice things about, and I'll show the differences here. This is a feature matrix of a bunch of things that you haven't seen yet, but it's good to point to this. One of the great things about working with TimeZest is, when you buy an RMM, for example, right? There's a 36-month term plus implementation, and then it gets into, well, if you're going to be on this term for 3 years and you think you might need more agents or users or X or Y in year 3, then you might as well buy them now, and then you can pay a discounted price because you're paying on volume. And and the flip side of that coin is it backs MSPs into a corner, because it's like, I think I might need them, but I'm not sure. I'll take the discounted price, but I might be buying something that I don't need, right? It's good and bad. With TimeZest, we try to get away from all of that. So when you look at these plans, we're billing month to month. There's no term. You can go at any time. You pay based on the number of users in your company that need to schedule, not every single user, not somebody that's a dispatcher that schedules other people. You decide on a month-to-month basis, these are the people that I need to be available for scheduling, and the price can go up and the price can go down. Literally, if you turn somebody off in the middle of a billing cycle, it automatically prorates. So you control based on need what you pay, and there's not a lot of tools in the MSP space that do that. And we do have the three, right? I mean, even people like free, but what they like a lot more is I decide from month to month whether I want to keep it, whether I like it, whether I want more users on it, whether I lost a couple people and I'm not going to get billed and have to call an account manager and try to get licenses rolled off. I mean, we've all, kind of been there, right? So yeah, all of that's up to you. Once you get to that point, and, typically after you've been using the software for a little bit, do I need Teams integration and Zoom integration on scheduling requests? Some people do, and some people don't. Do I want to use my own mail server versus using the default that's in TimeZest, right?
Well, I gotta say, you can decide. You brought up a very good point there. Some people do, and some people don't with Teams and Zoom integration.
Sure.
So can I have 8 people on a free license, 3 people on a standard, and 1 person on advanced?
No.
So they all have to be on the same license type.
Correct, because a lot of these settings are global. They're not, in relation to specific users. But going back to the free plan, if my need around scheduling says that I can have 1 appointment type and call it tech support, and I'm a small company, I need some help with this, but I don't want to pay for another SaaS tool necessarily right off the bat, right? I can use that 1 appointment type to do phone calls, anything. I'll just make it generic, right? And you can't reschedule and you can't cancel, so it is limited, but the cost on that is 0. So it's a basic plan, right? And we just look back at people and say, could you use some of these features or these? And if you don't need them, what you pay is up to you.
I like it.
Yeah.
And whether people agree with why can't I have some people on certain types of licenses thing or not, the fact that you aren't requiring a contract, you prorate adds, change, removes, throughout
Nobody
the month.
prorates on the spot. Usually,
Yeah.
usually you
Even
have to.
Calendly, they just you like, okay, no problem. You'll have access to this until the end of your billing cycle.
Correct.
Like
It's
that's what they
either
all say.
that, or with a lot of MSPs, if you're trying to, drop some licensing on a product and you're under a term, you have to call an account manager and negotiate, which no one likes to do. You can make the selection in the UI. We don't want this user and this user. Your billing changes on the spot.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right. Go ahead.
I was just going to see, we see a lot of our partners will, sometimes start with professional and drop to advanced. Sometimes, more often, start with advanced and flip to professional. We get notified on all of that, so we can see that. Just recently, we had someone that was on the free version for like 7 months, and they just decided to go live with more functionality. So
with Pro,
yeah.
Because the business need dictates. Because of Corona, I'm doing quarterly business reviews, but I can't do them face to face anymore. I want to insert Teams and Zoom meetings in this, or on projects, I have a need to add multiple resources on the line. Me, Steve, and Howard are all going to need to be involved, right? Do you have a use case for that? If you do, then you need panel. If you don't, then you don't.
So here's a fun one for you, and then I'd like to move on. So here's a fun thing for you though. Me being a Calendly user, I have noticed that if I book it and it's like integrated with Zoom or not, I can't edit manually the appointment once it's been booked. So like, for example, if I say, you know what, I'm not going to use Zoom anymore. We're going to start using StreamYard for these podcast things. So I actually had a 1 month period where it wouldn't let me change the location or the URL or anything in my calendar at all, because it was somehow like integrated and unchangeable. It was the weirdest thing. Does that happen with TimeZest too? Is that an unfortunate shortcoming of me using G Suite Calendar?
Are you saying that these are appointments that you've already set with people that you wanted to go back and alter after the fact because you're not going to use Teams and Zoom anymore? Or are you saying,
correct?
I didn't know if it was, I made a decision at this point to start sending it this way and I need to unconfigure a setting. Let's go through it. I think the answer to that is going to be no. Once it's on someone's calendar and it includes a Teams meeting, I can't go into the invite because it was generated by TimeZest, right? I can customize the look and feel of the template, but once it's been sent, I don't think we can edit that. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you.
Well, and I wasn't even trying to update it through Calendly. Like, I was on my local calendar itself, and I was like, right click, edit the appointment, and it wouldn't let me change the location there, which I thought was just weird.
We'll check. I don't, I don't want to give 100% thumbs up answer on something I'm not 100% sure about, but we can check.
All right. Well, I think that now is a good time for us to maybe take a look at a demo. What do you guys think?
Do the flow, work on a ticket. And we haven't had any green beer, so we're all still sober. It's probably
yeah. I'm sorry.
Good point to make. Everybody knows this, and I know, Steve, you refer to it as being beautiful and aesthetically pleasing and a very great platform to work in. Thank you.
Love everything about it. Love everything about it.
Right? We love doing business with ConnectWise. So if I have a ticket and Erica is my customer, right? She works for Popsig Consulting. Now I'm going to be Erica too. Here's her email inbox here, so you can see the notifications going back and forth. The ticket's on my reactive support board. It's an incident with a printer. I started it off in a status of need to schedule. The status could be new or triage, or, it's got to start somewhere, right? Is the point. This is the spot where people go, I either have a dispatcher that's got to go to manage and find a technician and put it on their calendar, or I have a technician that has been assigned the ticket and has exchanged enough emails with Erica that he knows that it's probably a bunch of jobs backed up in her print queue, and we just need to delete those and do a test print, and then she'll be fine, right? But I need to do, so it's gone through some communication back and forth, and we're just at that point where we need to schedule. Anybody that needs to schedule can use TimeZest to schedule, right? There's a ticket pod, and there's only two choices to make. I can either pick a technician or pick myself. I'm going to be Pat for the purposes of this demo. If I'm someone who's dispatching or coordinating and there's, tier 1, right? And I say, maybe I say it's a tier 2 issue and I have 2 techs that are tier 2. I can just pick tier 2 and it'll pick one of the 2 technicians, typically based on availability, right? But to keep it simple, I have this ticket, I own it, I'm Pat. And again, we point to Calendly a lot because the functionality is similar. You set up, now if you have that free license, you're only going to have one thing that you can do, similar to our free license. If you move to another license type, then it's unlimited. So we do maintenance windows where everything in here is something that somebody has talked to me about during these demos at some point, right? We have a maintenance window and we know when it is, but we have to use the ticket workflow to get a tick box, a check off from the end user. Or we're doing a phone call, or quarterly business reviews are big, right? There's different time windows associated with those. On this one, I know I'm going to do remote access to the PC for around 30 minutes, and I'll click the schedule button, right? And off we go. I never had to looked at it, but I looked at it to show you. I never had to look at the manage calendar. I never had to see when I was available. I never had to ask the customer, when they were available, right? Ding dong, end user gets an email. So the status on that ticket will change when we send the request. I can move on to something else and go work other tickets, right? Workflow and automation is going to take care of this for me. So here's the end user. Hey, it's FIP. It's me, Pat Jones, working on ticket 1203. All I'm doing is sending the button for the end user to pick a time, right?
Yep.
When she picks, it does a real-time check back into ConnectWise Manage and says, Eric's in Florida, so it's late today. There's only a couple of times left, or we can move to a different day if we want to. 4 p.m., right? That's the one she wants. Now, with COVID, and this has always been in TimeZest, right? You can turn it on or turn it off. Is there a best phone number to use to contact you? What happened with COVID is everybody's ConnectWise or Autotask is full of customer contact numbers that are office numbers. So, and they're not in the office, they're checking voicemail. So however long it took, now you can add 4 hours, right? Because we have to wait for them to get it. But if they want you to work on their ticket, they're going to say, yes, please call my cell. I'm at home working. That's the number I use, right? If she gives you that number, you can tell TimeZest to update the ticket, update the phone number on the ticket, which you'll see, update the phone number on the contact record in ConnectWise or Autotask, or don't update. It's up to you if you want to use this functionality, but a lot of MSPs love it because of COVID. They're like, yes, we have this problem all the time. It's nothing but voicemail, and then they respond the following day. So it shortens the time to resolution is basically what we're shooting for, right?
And I gotta say, I love that. I almost wish that you would give us the ability to go in some settings and check or uncheck boxes. That way we can update end user information like more than just a phone number. And when they put that mobile number in there, is that going to update their contact record, or is that just putting it in the calendar for you?
If you check the boxes, so I'll show you in TimeZest what you just said, which is there's a box to update the ticket, there's a box to update the contact record, or you don't have to update, or you don't have to ask, right?
Oh, I love it.
See, you're falling in love, and you haven't even used it to schedule. You're still using Calendly, but
I don't even use ConnectWise or Autotask. Where do I sign to get TimeZest?
TimeZest came in the room and complimented your eyelashes, and now Calendly's not looking so good.
Oh, great.
Right? Here it goes again, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So here's the confirmation email going to the customer, right? We don't want them to have
Mhm.
to think. We want them to say, look, there's a button if you want to reschedule. Click yes to put it on your calendar. You're done. Now, I did get the feedback from one MSP that their phone traffic was cut by literally 50%, which is almost hard to believe. Inbound ringing phones. He's like, because what I found out was when we started to measure a little bit, the ringing phone was really just people wanting to know when we were going to work on their ticket, right? So if following up, right, and we have to answer and we have to look at it, and my triage person's on the phone when she could be dispatching new tickets. If the customer knows, they're fine. They're not going to bother you with superficial stuff, right? If I click refresh on the ticket, you'll see that the status moved to contact scheduled with TimeZest.
Wow, that is cool, man.
Yeah, the resource is added here with the time entry, so I didn't have to do it manually. And then everybody likes an audit trail because I'm a service manager. I look at 300 tickets a day. I have to helicopter over. I don't always know what's going on. If it's not in ConnectWise, it doesn't exist, to use the old saying, right? When did we ask this customer to schedule? Here. When did they choose to schedule? Here. What phone number did they want us to use? Now I put 727 because that's my area code. Did we tell it to change the number on the ticket? Yes. So we just closed the loop. We did a function that's similar to Calendly, but we threaded everything back through the ticket and changed the status.
Wow.
Make sense?
Yeah, man.
And I never looked at a calendar and I never looked at dispatch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is very awesome. All right. So what about setting up TimeZest though? Like some admin settings.
So this is the portal, and most of the things that you can set or change are from this line up. So there's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things. It's not a whole ton of things to configure when you're setting it up. It's important real quick, because I'll go back to this, is just to show you in the ticket. If my use case is I'm a dispatcher and I need one of my 3 tier 1 techs, and I'll show you where the setting is for this, but it looks good on the ticket. Pick one of my techs to do that remote access appointment, and it'll go through the same thing. Or if I'm working project tickets, because the functionality with projects and service in ConnectWise and Autotask is typically the same, right? I need to box. My project phase doesn't kick off until April 1st, right? So it makes no sense to send availability before that date. Box it. Only send availability before, on or after this date, on or after this date, right? And then what comes up with projects or sales or account management is we need Ben and we need Nancy and we need Pat too, right? If I need to do that, what it's going to do here is find common times for all of these people that I select and then send those times to the end user. So 3 ways to schedule: one person from a team, multiple people. Cool.
Okay.
Also, for the salespeople, Steve, the settings, and Eric will show you this, they can set it up to create a ticket or create an activity in ConnectWise or to do an Autotask for a salesperson or an account manager or someone like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to only create a ticket.
This is kind of the heart of it. If you just go into the appointment types, right? And what Howard's describing is this: show URLs for a resource, and then there's a drop-down menu with everybody there, right? Because what we want to do is say, I want to be able to add as many of these as I want, unless I'm on the free plan, and then you get one, right? But once I set these up, you can see sales discovery, remote access to PC. I don't want to, in the example you gave earlier where the technicians weren't necessarily adopting, usually the fear is, I don't want to be scheduled back to back all day. I have other tickets to work that don't include scheduling, and so the way we space it out is to say, when anyone in this company wants to do remote access, we require 60 minutes of notice. and there's a buffer after, and there's a buffer before, right? In this case, remote access calls on tickets are usually quick. So I need 15 minutes on the back end to go ahead and update my notes and update my ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I go here, these are what you asked about a second ago. So require clients to enter best contact number, allow clients to enter best contact number, or don't ask, right? Update the phone number on the ticket, update the phone number on the contact record. So you can do it or not. It just depends if you need it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I like it.
When you go back to the, probably shows better here.
So I would love if, and maybe it's just the type, like what if we had to do, I see one there called hardware pickup.
Mm-hmm.
And with COVID, they're now working from home. Hardware's at home.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get their address?
You would typically have it in ConnectWise already, right?
Well, you would think so, but maybe I do a terrible job at putting people's home addresses into their contact on the PSA. So
Mm-hmm.
it would just be cool if you could have that option there for the MSPs who aren't as organized.
It can normally, it's a manual step because you've already got a customer record, and best practice is just to update the customer record for future use, right? What Howard was kind of speaking of, and you'll see these links, these URLs. What if I want to do the same functionality as Calendly? What if I want to send a link or put it in my email signature that says, if you have questions about our platinum contract, right, just call me for salespeople, right? When you're doing that, there's going to be people that are going to get it, depending on the use case, that aren't in your ConnectWise, and it's going to have to create the customer record and make a ticket or make an activity or a to-do in Autotask. So that's what Howard was sort of mentioning. If you tell it, see this URL-based scheduling, it's saying, what do you want me to do when it comes back? Do you want me to make a service ticket? Do you want me to make an activity? Do you want to create a new contact and company record or put it in a catch-all? If you select create new, then yes, it will send you a form. Give us your email, give us your company name. It's pretty much all the things you need to create the record and click save in ConnectWise. But it's not going to go into, this is your home location, this is your office location, right? It's just going to create the basic record. So better practice there would be, unfortunately, if you already have the customer, go in and create a location for home, so you can go get their broken laptop.
All right. What about the Autotask workflow? I see how stupid easy it is to do this with ConnectWise, especially because you're able to build that pod right on the screen there. What about Autotask?
We have, and it's hard to, I don't want to get into a second demo, but the integration with Autotask is very similar, with the exception that ConnectWise has pods. Autotask has a widget, right? The way Datto works with integrators is you use the widget. And so in Autotask, you take the ticket number, put the ticket number in the ticket, and then you get the same list of drop-down menus that you would see here to pick your resource and pick your appointment type. From there, it's exactly the same. So it's a slightly different process on the very front end, but we're updating the ticket, we're updating the service call on the ticket, we're updating the dispatch portal, service portal in Autotask. So it's everything that it does in ConnectWise, right? It's just a different process first to get there because there's no pod.
Right. And I just want to clarify, I don't need to go through the whole demo. I was just curious what it looked like on the Autotask interface since they use widgets.
Sure. Want me to show it to you? I'd have to fire it up.
If you could, that would be awesome. I'll remove the screen share for now, that way, just in case. So while you're doing that, I gotta say, man, this is a really powerful product for such a simple concept. I don't want to call it a simple tool because I feel like that would minimize what you guys are doing for people, but it is really cool, all of the functionality this is bringing to people, and the fact that it's not just ConnectWise. Because weren't you just ConnectWise for a while?
That's how we started, yes. But ConnectWise has the Invent program. They have the marketplace. They post their reviews for you. ConnectWise has a path to make it easy for integrators, and Autotask does too. They have all the same things, and everyone that's using Autotask typically has the same issues that for scheduling that someone who's using ConnectWise would have.
Absolutely, and that is, yeah. I was just curious. Like, for a while, you were ConnectWise only, but that's nothing against Autotask. It's probably simply because that's the tool that you guys were using,
Sure.
or the tool that you guys were most familiar with. But I think it would be foolish of you to say, "Yeah, we're not going to really make this for Autotask," because that's making your available market significantly smaller. Not
Sure.
to say that ConnectWise is small potatoes. I'm just saying that, ConnectWise and Autotask, I feel like, are the major players when it comes to MSP PSAs. I don't
Sure.
feel like, while Synchro and Kaseya BMS and there's a few others, like, while they're all really nice tools, I don't think they have as much market share.
Sure. And they may not, and like I say, with having experience with both ConnectWise and Autotask, it was just a natural place to start. I mean, there's tools in this space that are used outside of the MSP arena, the ServiceNow. There's other service automation tools where you would have the same issues typically with scheduling. So who's to say?
Absolutely.
Let me just get, hey, give me a second. I'll try and get Autotask going for you.
No problem. So, when are you guys going to start with the green beer?
I can start now if you want.
I was just genuinely curious. Like,
there's your widget. Let me make you a ticket.
While it's quiet, Steve, another thing that that we offer is customer success team. So that team's actually been growing a little bit. They're there.
Nice.
Once you get signed up, somebody will reach out to you, but you can contact us anytime, and they'll go through that admin console with you, and they'll talk about your business and best practices. And the people on that team right now have good experience with ConnectWise. They're learning more about Autotask, but it's more about the best practices and answering questions like the person asked earlier, how do I get more people to use it? So we do that. But as far as getting this thing set up, it takes about 20 minutes from downloading the trial to having a fully functioned professional version. And then you can, I think Eric, I don't think he showed it yet, but it's just an on-off switch for who's going to be able to be booked. And it's only people being booked. So if you have a dispatcher who never gets booked, they don't need a license.
That's perfect. So when we sign up, will we have the option to, I don't know what the right word is, but get all those schedule types that you've already made in the demo? Is it possible for those to get like imported into a new account, or do we have to set all those up ourselves?
We give you a handful of basics, but we don't know to start with. So you have the template. In other words, you can recreate new ones from what's already there. But we don't know if you do on-site service. We don't know if you have a lot of hardware pickup. So it's better not to, I'd rather not hand you 20 things that you wouldn't use. We'd rather help you set it up so that it matches the way that you work.
See, I guess maybe I'm doing it wrong, because I'd rather you hand me every possible type and me just remove the ones or not use the ones that I never need.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm weird. So
teams are a good example. The group pick, the tier 1 and tier 2. There's like 5 ways to do that. I have client service pods where one group of customers goes to A, one group of customers goes B, the customers get familiar with 3 or 4 techs, and we do it that way. Another MSP will say, yeah, I do it, but it's based on skill set, right? And the network stuff goes here, infrastructure stuff goes here. Another MSP will say, well, I have a tier 1, but I don't have triage. And then another one will say, well, I have triage tier 1 and tier 2. Another one will say, we don't have any group labels whatsoever, and we don't have a dispatcher. We just pull tickets out of a queue as we work. So again, it just helps to find out in advance, right? If this is the way you do it, let's get some scheduling examples going based on that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this this auto task interface.
Can you see? Am I sharing?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
I see. I can't print.
I've been known to get. I know that's our default to get. We try to.
The sky is falling.
Right, we're standardizing demo platforms across the board, but you can see that it's similar, right? PopSig,
yep.
Erica, status of. I can't print. In AutoTask, though, the process is I have to grab the ticket number, and most dispatchers, people that do this a lot, are going to move to, they'll have it on one screen and sort of toggle back and forth. My TimeZest widget is right there up at the top. So
so it's not even a widget inside the ticket,
right?
Because of the way AutoTask does it.
It can't be currently because of the way that AutoTask does it, but it's coming, and it's called AutoTask Insights. So we're looking forward to it. But there's Pam Pierce. And she's going to do remote access to the PC, and she's going to schedule. And then you'll see the same process. We're working with that same end user, just using a different platform. And we try to be cute with AutoTask. I don't know why. And we included our own branding instead of the MSP branding. So if you want to advertise TimeZest, this is a great way to do it. But
it's hilarious.
Click a button. Pick a time.
So literally the exact same scenario. I mean, because once you get here, I mean, this part's all of the exact same.
Yes.
I was just genuinely curious how it looked and on. So it is maybe a couple extra steps, but that's not your doing; it's AutoTask doing. And whenever they bring out the insights, that will be a game changer for how this operates.
A lot of our AutoTask partners will say, that's just how I'm used to working with integrators, right? And I'm looking for a widget because we've got a couple of them, right? But what I really want to know is, does it update the ticket? Does it put the audit trail information in of when we sent it, when it was scheduled? Will it update the service call? I get that question a lot. Will it update? There it is, right? Pamela scheduled for half an hour. Will it update the dispatch portal? Yes. So everything is the same as far as how it works. It's just creating the scheduling event. It's no harder. It's just the way it works in AutoTask, the way it works in ConnectWise.
Love it.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't really speak for AutoTask or make any promises for AutoTask or anything, but do we know, have they said like we're hoping to launch the Insights thing in April in 2023? Like, do we know any of that info yet?
I try not to, it's software, right? It's, we've all been doing this for a long time. It's real soon now. I mean, that's the answer, right? We do work directly with development on the AutoTask side quite a bit. On our product guys have a direct line to them. Their answers tend to be pretty good on things. They're saying, 2 months on that for AutoTask Insight, but
I'll say this. Since the Datto acquisition, I feel like mergers and acquisitions tend to make things worse, but for some reason, Datto made AutoTask better. I don't know what Datto was thinking, but
The product guys on our side who are, we have some very smart propeller heads. And if you work with developers, one thing that they don't do, they just think in binary terms. There's no like sugarcoating, glossing over. So what we hear from our own product people is, hey, that's a really good, concise response from Datto. It's good that it didn't take, weeks to hear from them. They're usually pretty crisp on communicating with integrators and developers. And so we're happy with it. They're saying 2 months.
Do you see yourselves creating additional integrations for things like Synchro, Kaseya BMS, any other tools?
Howard, I think you've been leading that a little bit, right? Just the research.
Absolutely. We've been talking with a lot, again, kind of like what you had mentioned earlier, Steve. A lot of these companies might not have as big a foothold. So, is it worth it if they've got 300 partners, to build out this? I know we're looking at ServiceNow, Kaseya, we run across a lot. I heard the other day that Atera is making a big push. So, we might get in touch with them also.
I feel like, there's got to be like hundreds, if not thousands, of MSPs running Synchro. I think that would be kind of a logical next one for you, if I were being honest. And I think the biggest reason that a lot of MSPs are moving to Synchro isn't necessarily because of, stellar support or, bells and whistles or features that other places don't have. I feel like in some ways they can compete pretty nicely against ConnectWise Manage. In some ways, Manage, Autotask, even BMS just blow them out of the water. Strengths and weaknesses, just like all the other things. Mm-hmm. But people love Synchro because it isn't owned by somebody. It is an independent company, and that is.
Everybody's owned by somebody. Are you saying that they're privately owned, privately funded?
They're a privately owned company that isn't publicly traded. Private equity money hasn't gotten involved. It's just nice to know that it's it feels like a small company without screwing things up like a small company. They also have a ridiculous dev cycle. Like they are pushing out 5 new things a month. It is like impossible to keep up with all the new features that they add, to the point where you just have to figure out, do I really need this? Like, because I don't have time to I don't have time to deploy this kind of thing.
Sure. And we enjoy that too. We're our founders and everybody on the team here is actively involved in the decision making. Our roadmap's publicly available. It's a real roadmap. Sometimes when you move to being publicly traded, for example, there's lots of disadvantages to putting everything that you're doing in development out there. And so you'll see roadmaps start to get more and more vague, and the timelines become more and more vague in what we're actually doing. And then there's other things that are strategic that don't even get listed, right? There's a definite plus to being nimble, right, as a company, being able to look at things from that perspective, as far as development. How fast can we bring changes to market? Are we listening to our customers and responding to feedback, which we do? It's a big plus.
And do you promise you guys aren't going to sell in any way to like ConnectWise, Kaseya, Datto anytime in the near future?
I can't promise that. I'm not a founding member of the company. I think in the natural progression of how companies go, I think it eventually happens to all companies, but no, I can't. I think we're happy for the time being, just finding new integration partners and helping MSPs.
So you heard it here first, guys. These guys are selling to ConnectWise next month.
I can't speak to that.
That's fine. That's fine. We read between the lines. No, so as of right now, it doesn't seem as though you guys are making any moves, and it may happen in the future. It may not. We don't know what the cards hold.
Yeah, all that stuff is just dependent on. I mean, we've seen it with every company you could name almost. We've seen it with Kaseya, we've seen it with Autotask, we've seen it with ConnectWise. It's just sometimes that's a natural progression for where the company's headed, and sometimes it's not. Our focus was
the big one right now that everyone's all up in arms about is Rocket Cyber, because Rocket Cyber seemed like this too good to be true product, and it was privately held, and everyone was so excited about that everyone just kind of jumped on board, and then they surprise, we sold to Kaseya, and I think most of the sentiment is, I mean, I get it, but why Kaseya of all places?
Sure.
And I'm like, guys, again, strengths and weaknesses.
And maybe
sometimes
just the goal is, maybe that just naturally happens when you become a good company, right? Maybe you get offers coming in. You're never going to get to that point if you're not building a reputation in the marketplace for being a company that really understands. I mean, you said it, when you see the workflow of how we work, it's obvious that TimeZest was built based on the mindset of MSPs and what they have to do on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a simple tool. People stay with us and our revenue grows as a company because they love it and it's useful and they want to keep it. We're not putting anybody on a term. They're not forced to stay, and they leave us good reviews and get us to the top of the marketplace. And that says a lot.
So I'm genuinely curious, how many, I'm going to call it users, ballpark, do you have these days? Free licenses, paid licenses, all of them added up?
There is somewhere between 400 and 500 companies total.
Okay, so that's companies.
Yes.
We don't even know how many individuals.
If I knew it off the top of my head, I would tell you.
Okay.
We've got them anywhere from one license up to over 300. So it really ranges.
Sure.
ConnectWise uses us, so that's a pretty good statement of, as far as how much, where we can scale up in a larger company. But then larger companies are spending more time playing scheduling ping pong. So
that is also true. Well, guys, this was awesome. I loved seeing your product in action. I love when I just see something that's so easy to show people that, the demo part was the easiest, quickest, most painless thing we did today. Sure. Me grilling you about HIPAA compliance and everything else was the hardest.
Somebody who's an expert in HIPAA and understands every single requirement, I mean, introduce me to him, because I haven't met anybody yet.
I know some people who think they are. So
sure.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave with us?
Howard, how do they, if they fall in love the way that Steve has, how do they get a hold of us? How do they get to a trial?
Yes. And Eric can, you don't even need to share it out. You can just go to TimeZest.com. At the top of the page, you can click on trial and schedule or actually start your trial. You can choose either a Autotask or ConnectWise. If you're using something else, we have that there too, because we are tracking. So when those new solutions come out, we can contact you. If you click on the demo link, it gives you an option to have a live demo, of course, but there's also an option for trial support. So if you're in the trial and you're going, well, you know what, I don't like watching videos or listening or reading, you can set up that quick sign up, that link that's showing in the page, and set up a quick session with someone on our team that can help get everything configured for you.
And that's not required, Steve. We know that MSPs are busy, and a lot of, we've all worked for different companies, and sometimes the process is, I'm interested in this, I want to take a look, maybe something that I can work on during my off hours. It's not required to have a sit down, have a scoping call. Most people want to, they have questions they want to ask, but if it's something you want to grab and implement and test and use it yourself a little bit, and then just kind of decide, it's not a requirement to
I love that.
work with us. Yeah.
I
And the other
absolutely
thing-
love that. And go ahead, Howard.
Oh, the other thing is with all the MSP consolidation, we see a lot of that where a company gets acquired. All of a sudden we'll see, either 20 licenses added, or a company gets acquired and all of a sudden we just see them sign up. And for the company that they just acquired, they're keeping the same name. They're under a big umbrella. But now, you see someone just set up a trial and get it set up within 24 hours, and they've used the product before.
Sure.
And they're already using it. So those are a lot of different ways that some of the people listening might relate to.
And you decide who you roll it out to. It's not it's not that future sale like a lot of vendors do. Hey, you just had an acquisition, you're going to add 200 people. Let's talk about when you get to 300 and base your pricing on that, right? If you go through an acquisition and you acquire a company that's got an additional 200 employees, you can start with 10 if that's what makes sense, right? We're just going to get the new guys on the help desk using it and go from there. So there's a lot of freedom in how you get to work with us by design.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on here and doing this with me today, gentlemen. Anytime, when you launch that Synchro integration, or you start adding new bells and whistles and features, you know how to reach me.
Sure.
That sounds
We'll
great,
bring
Steve.
you back and show it off.
Thank you.
Very good.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks so much for hopping on here and watching this. I will see everyone here next week on the 24th for the next episode. Take care, everybody.